March 2020. Sarah Chen left for work on a normal Thursday morning. That evening, files found on her laptop changed everything. When Jake Morrison's fiancé didn't come home from work, everyone assumed she'd gotten caught up in campaign deadlines. Sarah Chen was 24, a digital marketing specialist working on the biggest political campaign of her career, the 2020 Riverside mayoral race that would determine the future of their small Ohio town. Jake waited until midnight before calling anyone. Sarah was dedicated to her work, often staying late at Chen & Associates when big campaigns heated up. But she always texted, always called. Sarah never just disappeared. That Thursday evening, March 12th, would allegedly be the last time anyone saw Sarah Chen alive. But what Jake discovered on her work laptop 3 days later would reveal that Sarah hadn't just vanished. According to the evidence, she had been silenced. This isn't just another missing person case. This is about what happens when small-town politics turn deadly, when campaign secrets become worth killing for, and when the people we trust to represent us will allegedly do anything to protect their power. But remember, in March 2020, the world was changing. Campaigns were moving online, meetings were going virtual, and it was easier than ever for someone to disappear without leaving traditional traces. Sarah Chen thought she was just doing her job. She didn't know she was allegedly documenting evidence of a conspiracy that went to the very top of Riverside's political machine. The question isn't just where Sarah went. The question is what she discovered that allegedly made her disappearance necessary. March 12, 2020. Thursday morning in Riverside, Ohio started like any other day. Population 45,000, the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors and local politics still mattered. Sarah Chen woke up at 6:30 a.m. in the apartment she shared with Jake Morrison. They'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months, planning a small wedding for the following spring. Sarah was excited about her current project, the mayoral campaign for incumbent Robert Henley. That morning, Sarah seemed normal, maybe a little stressed about campaign deadlines, but nothing unusual. She'd been working late recently, poring over campaign finance reports that didn't quite add up, small discrepancies in donation records that nagged at her analytical mind. Sarah left their apartment at 7:45 a.m., coffee in hand, wearing her usual work outfit. She kissed Jake goodbye and mentioned she might be late. She wanted to double-check some financial documents before the evening strategy meeting. The last text Jake received from Sarah came at 2:17 p.m. Meeting moved to 6. Found something strange in the files. Will explain tonight. Jake responded, "Everything okay? Love you." Sarah read the message at 2:19 p.m. According to phone records, she never replied to another text. At Chen & Associates, colleagues later reported that Sarah had seemed focused but tense. She'd been requesting access to campaign financial databases, asking questions about donation sources that seemed routine at the time. Around 3:30 p.m., Sarah allegedly told her supervisor she needed fresh air before the meeting. Security footage from Murphy's Coffee showed Sarah entering at 3:47 p.m., but the timestamp was unclear due to a camera malfunction. A convenience store clerk remembered seeing someone matching Sarah's description around 4 a.m., but couldn't be certain of the time or location. After that moment, Sarah Chen's movements became unclear. She never returned for the 6 p.m. strategy meeting. Her car remained in the office parking lot. Her purse, containing wallet and keys, was found exactly where she'd left it. But her phone was gone, and in her laptop bag, colleagues discovered a USB drive none of them recognized, a simple black device that Sarah had apparently been using to copy campaign financial records. The USB contained files that would explain why Sarah Chen never made it back to work that day. Jake waited until midnight before calling police. Sarah had been working late frequently, but she'd never missed dinner without explanation. Something was definitely wrong. Riverside police treated it as a standard missing person case. Adult woman, no signs of struggle, car and belongings left behind. Probably work stress, maybe a family emergency she hadn't mentioned. Jake spent the next 2 days calling hospitals, checking with Sarah's clients, driving the route between Murphy's Coffee and her office building. Sleep became impossible as worry consumed him. Saturday morning, after endless pleading, Jake convinced Sarah's supervisor to let him access her work computer. Maybe she'd left a clue about where she was going, who she was meeting. What he allegedly found on Sarah's laptop made his hands shake. The The browser history showed unusual searches, campaign finance databases, public records requests, property ownership searches for names Jake didn't recognize. Sarah had been investigating something beyond her normal marketing work. In her email drafts folder, Jake discovered an unsent message dated March 11th, the day before she disappeared. Jake, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I've been documenting irregularities in the Henley campaign finances. Check the USB drive in my laptop bag. Files are encrypted with your birthday. Don't trust local police with this. Contact David Martinez at the Columbus Dispatch. I found evidence of systematic fund misuse. I love you. Jake's chest tightened as he read the message. According to this evidence, Sarah had been conducting a secret investigation and had prepared for the possibility that she might disappear. He searched her laptop bag frantically. Hidden in a small interior pocket was a USB drive he'd never seen before. Plain black, unmarked, the kind used for backing up sensitive documents. Jake plugged the drive into Sarah's computer and entered his birthday, 081094. The files unlocked immediately, revealing spreadsheets, scanned documents, and email screenshots that Sarah had been secretly collecting for weeks. Campaign donation records with suspicious patterns, fund transfers to unverified recipients, and most disturbing, communications suggesting that someone had discovered Sarah's investigation. A crumpled note found in her trash can contained a handwritten message: "Stop asking questions or there will be consequences. Final warning." Sarah had been in danger, and now she was gone. Jake realized he needed to find David Martinez, the journalist Sarah had trusted with her life. The USB drive contained files that Sarah had allegedly been secretly collecting for 3 weeks: campaign finance records, bank statements, donation reports, and email screenshots that revealed troubling patterns in the Henley mayoral campaign. Jake scrolled through document after document, his understanding of Sarah's disappearance shifting with each revelation. According to the evidence, Sarah had first noticed small discrepancies while preparing digital ad budgets, donation amounts that didn't match reported figures, fund transfers to vendors that didn't appear in campaign materials. What started as routine fact-checking had evolved into a systematic investigation. The files showed suspicious patterns: large donations from newly formed LLCs with minimal business records, campaign funds transferred to construction companies owned by Mayor Henley's relatives, and city contracts awarded to the same firms at above-market rates. Sarah had discovered what appeared to be a coordinated scheme to funnel money through the campaign into private pockets, but the evidence was incomplete and circumstantial. The most concerning documents were email screenshots between campaign officials discussing managing the situation with someone who had been asking too many questions about finances. The tone suggested Sarah's investigation had been discovered. One email chain particularly disturbed Jake. "The Chen girl is requesting detailed financial records. Her questions are getting specific. We need to address this before it becomes a problem. I'll handle it. Campaign work is stressful. People sometimes need breaks." The emails were dated March 10th and 11th, just 2 days before Sarah disappeared. According to these communications, Sarah had been identified as a threat to whatever operation was being protected, and steps were allegedly being taken to address her investigation. But many questions remained unanswered. Who exactly was involved? How extensive was the alleged scheme? And most importantly, where was Sarah now? The last file on the USB was an audio recording Sarah had made on March 12th at 2 p.m. "Jake, if you're hearing this, something has happened. I've been documenting financial irregularities in the Henley campaign. I think someone knows about my investigation. I'm supposed to meet a source this afternoon who claims to have more evidence, but I'm not sure if I can trust them. The meeting location keeps changing. If anything happens to me, contact David Martinez at the Columbus Dispatch." The recording ended abruptly, as if Sarah had been interrupted. Jake realized that Sarah's source might have been the person who lured her away from safety that afternoon. But without more information, he couldn't identify who that might be or where they might have taken her. David Martinez had been investigating political corruption in Ohio for 15 years. When Jake Morrison called about Sarah Chen's disappearance and the campaign finance irregularities, Martinez knew immediately that the case required careful, methodical investigation. They met at a diner outside Riverside, away from prying eyes. Jake brought copies of Sarah's files, and Martinez brought expertise in tracking political conspiracies and patience for the long process ahead. According to these documents, your fiancé stumbled onto something that's been building for years, Martinez explained after reviewing the USB contents. But exposing this kind of corruption takes months, not days. Martinez had been tracking similar patterns in other Ohio cities: campaign donations from shell companies, inflated city contracts, and public officials who became mysteriously wealthy on government salaries. Sarah was getting close to something dangerous, Martinez continued. But these people allegedly don't panic and make quick decisions. They plan carefully. Over the next 6 weeks, Martinez used his investigative contacts to slowly build the case. Database searches, financial record analysis, and careful background checks on the players involved. During this time, Jake continued his day job while secretly helping Martinez piece together Sarah's investigation. They had to be extremely careful. Any sign that they were continuing Sarah's work could put them both in danger. The breakthrough came when Martinez's contact at the State Elections Commission agreed to quietly review the campaign finance irregularities. The official investigation would take months, but initial findings supported Sarah's evidence. Martinez also identified the person coordinating responses to Sarah's investigation through careful research: Daniel Morrison, Henley's campaign manager, who also ran a private security consulting firm. Here's what the evidence suggests happened, Martinez said after 2 months of investigation. Sarah discovered the fund irregularities and started collecting evidence. When Henley's people realized how much she knew, they allegedly decided she was too dangerous to leave alive. Where is she now? Jake asked. If Sarah's still alive after this long, she's being held somewhere very remote and secure. If she's dead, Martinez paused. They'd have disposed of evidence very carefully, probably months ago. 3 months after Sarah's disappearance, Jake made a disturbing discovery. Someone had been monitoring Sarah's cloud storage account, and by extension, monitoring Jake's access to her files. The digital surveillance explained why no one had tried to silence Jake immediately. They'd been watching, waiting to see what he knew and who he contacted. Martinez made a calculated decision. We're going public, but we're going to do it smart, coordinate with federal investigators, ensure our safety, and time it for maximum impact. But going public meant alerting the conspirators that their operation had allegedly been exposed. If Sarah was still alive somewhere, publication might finally seal her fate. Martinez coordinated with federal investigators before publication. We don't just run stories that might get people killed, he explained to Jake. We work with law enforcement to maximize impact while minimizing risk. 4 months after Sarah's disappearance, the Columbus Dispatch ran Martinez's exposé. The article detailed the alleged campaign finance irregularities and Sarah's investigation that had led to her vanishing. The response was deliberately controlled and methodical. FBI agents had been quietly investigating for weeks before the story broke. When it published, they were ready with search warrants and surveillance operations already in place. Mayor Henley's office went into crisis mode, but by then federal agents had already secured key evidence from city offices and campaign headquarters. Daniel Morrison didn't disappear immediately. Instead, he continued his normal routine for 3 days, likely believing that the corruption investigation wouldn't directly implicate him in Sarah's disappearance. His mistake came on day 4, when he allegedly made a routine trip to check on something outside the city. Federal surveillance teams, who had been monitoring Morrison for weeks, followed him to a remote property outside Riverside, an abandoned farm owned by one of the companies connected to the alleged fund misuse scheme. Jake received a call from FBI Special Agent Rebecca Torres 2 days later. We think we've found where they held Sarah, but we need you to prepare for the worst news. The farm property showed evidence of recent use as a temporary detention facility, restraints, basic living supplies, and traces of human presence that forensic teams were analyzing. But Sarah wasn't there and hadn't been for months. Morrison's phone records, obtained through federal warrant, revealed the timeline. Sarah had allegedly been moved from the farm in late March, just 2 weeks after her disappearance, long before any media attention. The phone also contained communications suggesting Morrison had been reporting to someone higher up the chain, someone who had ordered Sarah's permanent relocation when her investigation became too dangerous. FBI analysis of Morrison's financial records showed payments to individuals with criminal backgrounds, including someone who specialized in problem-solving for criminal organizations. Morrison was arrested at his home 6 months after Sarah disappeared. Under pressure from federal prosecutors offering a plea deal, Morrison eventually revealed what had happened to Sarah, but not before 8 months of legal proceedings and investigation. The revelation was exactly what Jake had feared. Sarah had been killed within days of her disappearance, and her remains had been disposed of in a location that would make recovery nearly impossible. Morrison led investigators to a remote area of state forest where he claimed Sarah's body had been buried. After weeks of searching with ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs, investigators found remains that DNA analysis confirmed belonged to Sarah Chen. The medical examiner determined she had died approximately 1 week after her disappearance, killed professionally with methods designed to leave minimal evidence. Mayor Robert Henley was arrested on charges of conspiracy and campaign finance violations. The investigation revealed that the alleged scheme had misappropriated over $400,000 from campaign funds over 2 years. Sarah Chen had died because she'd discovered evidence of systematic fund misuse and had refused to stay silent when allegedly confronted by the conspirators. 18 months later, Daniel Morrison received a life sentence for Sarah's murder and conspiracy charges. Mayor Robert Henley was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for campaign finance violations, though investigators never proved his direct involvement in Sarah's death. The trials revealed some aspects of the alleged financial scheme, but many questions remained unanswered. How long had the operation been running? Who else was involved? Sarah's investigation had captured only fragments of what appeared to be a larger pattern of corruption. Jake struggled with grief and anger for months before establishing the Sarah Chen Foundation for Government Transparency. Progress was slower than he'd hoped. Systemic change requires sustained effort, adequate funding, and political will that often proves elusive. David Martinez received recognition for his investigation, but similar problems continue in other communities. His reporting led to audits in several Ohio municipalities, though not all resulted in criminal charges or meaningful reforms. Sarah's case highlighted the isolation faced by citizens who discover government wrongdoing. Despite new oversight measures, whistleblowers still face serious risks when challenging powerful interests, and many choose silence over uncertain justice. Some reforms were implemented in Riverside: improved campaign finance monitoring, citizen oversight committees, and enhanced reporting requirements. But critics argue these measures address symptoms rather than root causes of corruption. Sarah Chen believed she was supporting democratic processes when she took her job. According to the evidence, she died because she asked inconvenient questions about how public money was being spent. Her story illustrates how corruption can flourish in communities where oversight is limited. Local political networks operate without scrutiny, and ordinary citizens lack resources to challenge established power structures. Sometimes individual courage isn't enough to create lasting change. Sarah's sacrifice exposed specific criminal acts, but didn't eliminate the conditions that made those crimes possible in the first place. What would most people do if they discovered evidence of government corruption? The honest answer is that many would face Sarah's difficult choice and choose personal safety over uncertain justice, a rational decision in a system that offers limited protection for those who speak truth to power. Sarah Chen chose investigation over ignorance, documentation over denial. Her death tragically demonstrated the risks faced by citizens who refuse to accept official explanations when evidence suggests something different. Jake's Foundation continues working toward the systemic changes Sarah believed in. Democracy requires citizens who are willing to ask difficult questions. Sarah proved that such courage can be dangerous. Our job is to make it less so,